Hey, you guys. So, we're back for some more notes. Today, we're going to be talking about phrases and clauses. So, it's really just being able to tell the difference between what is a phrase and what is a clause. We're not going to get into the nitpicky what are the different kinds of clauses, what are the different kind of phrases today. So, it's just being able to identify the difference between a phrase and a clause. And that's what your IXL is going to ask you to do, and then also the quiz. So, these are some pretty short notes today also, because we're just going to take a few notes and then you guys are going to go practice it in your IXL. Okay, so just like always, I want you to get your table of contents filled out in your ISN, and then also go get those 2 pages labeled in your ISN with today's date, whichever day you are taking these notes, and it should say phrase or clause at the top. And once you have that done, come on back and we'll get started with notes. Okay, you guys, so hopefully you already have this done. You should have today's date, whatever date you're taking the notes. This should say phrase or clause. And you should have a page number up here. Make sure you are labeling both pages with both the date and what the notes are over. Okay, so you guys should already have that filled out. Okay, so the foldable that you need for this one looks like this: phrase versus clause. This is really, honestly, I did this, but I don't have anything that we aren't gonna write. Well, we might. So just cut it so it should just go like this, okay, guys? And then we aren't really gonna do definitions because we're gonna write the different categories of phrases and clauses. So you guys can just tape that down in the middle. Okay, so that was nice and easy today. So we're just going to kind of talk about the different characteristics of phrases and then clauses. And maybe then what we'll do is maybe put a couple of examples down underneath so that you can kind of see it. So here are the things that when you're looking at a group of words, here's what you're looking for. And it'll talk about the differences when we talk about these. So a phrase is going to be 2 or more words. Okay, here's the big thing. So like star that, okay? Big thing with a phrase. It's the main way to tell the difference between a phrase and a clause. There is no subject and verb. So here's the deal. A phrase might have a subject but no verb, or a verb and not a subject. But a phrase will never at any time have both a subject and a verb. Okay, so that's one of the main ways. If it's missing a subject or if it's missing a verb, then it has to be a phrase. Okay, and the last thing for a phrase is not a complete sentence. Okay. So those are the 3 things that you are looking for when you're looking at phrases. When we talk about clauses, up here we have 2 or more words. This is going to be many more words. So we're just going to put, it's going to be groups of words. So instead of like 2 or more, it's more of a group. So there's going to be a lot more than 2 words going on here. Okay, but the main thing for a clause is it must include a subject and verb. Okay, so this is going to have a subject and a verb. So when we took the notes over subjects and predicates, it has to have a subject and a predicate in a clause. Okay? And the last thing is that a clause is not always a complete subject or a complete sentence. Oh my gosh. Oh wait, that's right. Okay. I'm going to tell you that there's 2 kinds of clauses. One of the clauses is a complete sentence. One kind of clause is not a complete sentence. So therefore, I want to say it's not always a complete sentence because sometimes it is. But what we're going to be talking about today is kind of telling the difference between a phrase and a clause that's not a complete sentence, okay? So when we're looking at this, a phrase is going to be something like, in the tree. No period. Ignore the period, okay? In the tree. It's got 3 words, so it's 2 or more words. It honestly doesn't have a subject or a predicate in here. You could say that this is actually the object of a preposition, because this is a prepositional phrase. But this does not have a subject or a predicate, and it's 100% not a complete sentence, okay? So automatically these 3 words are a phrase, okay? So this is number 1. Number 2. Nope, not going with that. Okay, it could be something as simple as this. Okay, a teacher at Rankin. Not a complete sentence, it's a phrase. Okay, I think those are the 2 main ones that I'm going to do, because really this was a prepositional phrase and this was an appositive phrase that would get inserted. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys that. I'm going to change these into clauses. Okay, now I am going to put a little disclosure up here. Okay, because like I said, there are technically 2 kinds of clauses. So I want you to understand that these are examples of dependent clauses. So these are not complete sentences. Okay? So I want you to understand if it's an independent clause, it's going to be a complete sentence, which we will discuss in your clauses lesson, okay? But if it's a dependent clause, it's not going to be a complete sentence. So I want you guys to see how, if they're both not complete sentences, how you can tell the difference between a phrase versus a clause. So I'm going to take the words in the tree and I'm going to turn it into a clause. Okay? And remember up there where I was writing like who? I put who nope, yeah, who, nope, yes. Don't you love this? So I'm going to type, or I'm going to write who was in the tree. Now, I'm going to tell you, if this was a question, like I was asked, oh my gosh, who was in the teacher? Ridiculous. Who was in the tree? Okay. If I was asking a question and I put a question mark over here and I capitalize this, it would actually be a complete sentence. But that's not what I'm doing here. Okay. I'm saying blank was in the tree. Okay. So I have my verb was. Okay. But I don't actually say who was in the tree. So I could have said Mrs. Thompson, comma, who was in the tree, comma, and then added on to it. Okay. So that's one way that I could turn it into a dependent clause. So number 2. Okay, so since she is a teacher at Rankin, see how many more words I'm having to use to make it a clause? Both of them are requiring many more words to make them into a clause. But since she is a teacher at Rankin is once again not a complete sentence, but it does have your verb. Okay, it does have my verb. Well, it's going to be hard to do one with a subject but not a verb. But so I need more. Since she is a teacher at Rankin, she is amazing, or Mrs. Thompson is amazing, or yeah, Mrs. Thompson is amazing. That would be a good way to finish that sentence, right? I agree with that too. So that's the difference between a phrase and a clause. So now what I want you to do is I want you to go take the quick little quiz that I ask you to take, just to see that you took down these notes. Remember to close your notebook, just to see what you retained. Remember, I'm not really judging you on that quiz, but it does give you an idea that if you need to take more notes or not. Okay, so take that quick little quiz that is really basic. Then go work on your IXL, okay? Come to class when we have class next, whenever that is, with questions. If you have any questions over phrases and clauses, especially if you've started the IXL and you're struggling with something, be able to come in with those questions, okay? And I will see you soon.